Hey, listeners, before we get started today, I want to give a quick shout out and word to our sponsor, our very first sponsor, Rapido Solutions Group. Danny Frisco and Roberto Icaza, two longtime friends of mine, guys I've known for 10 plus years, the CEO and COO respectively and co-founders of Rapido Solutions Group. These guys know what they're doing. I'm excited to be partnered with them to give you a little glimpse into their business. Rapido connects logistics and supply chain organizations in North America with the best nearshore talent to scale efficiently, operate on par with US-based teams, and deliver superior customer service. These guys work with businesses from all sides of the industry, 3PLs, carriers, logistics, software companies, whatever it may be. They'll build out a team and support whatever roles you need, whether it's customer, carrier sales support, back office, or tech services. These guys know logistics. They know people. It's what sets them apart in this industry. They're driven by an inside knowledge of how to recruit, hire, and train within the industry and a passion to build better solutions for success. In the current market conditions where everyone is trying to be more efficient, do more with less, nearshoring is the latest and greatest tactic that companies are deploying to do so, and Rapido is a tremendous solution for you. So check them out at gorapido.com. And thank you again for being a sponsor to our show, a great partner. We look forward to working with you. And to our listeners, that's it. Let's get the show on the road. Welcome back to another episode of the Freight Pod. I'm your host, Andrew Silver, and I am joined today by a good friend of mine, a mentor of mine, someone who has been there for me through the early days of my kind of entrepreneurial journey. I don't like saying entrepreneurial journey, but through the early days of me starting a business. Mr. David Bell, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Thank you, man. Thank you. Early days were fun, man. I miss those days. Every trade show now, it's not the same. We had a cool little group. You know what I'm saying? We had a cool little group that made trade shows fun. I gotta figure out it. Now that I'm getting back into the trade shows, I gotta figure out a way to get a little group back together or something so it's fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say that maybe just a personal reference, because like that was 2018, 2019, and maybe it's just you haven't been in the day-to-day grind of running a business, and now that you're back in it, I think you'll find that group naturally creates itself for you.
It does. It's crazy because I didn't realize what it was to start a business from scratch, like from nothing. You know, I mean, when it's just like even logistics. I got into logistics in 1995, and it just kind of morphed. And you had customers. You know, you work for somebody, and then you go out. They do something. They go out of business, whatever. You go do yourself. And then so in 1997, I went into business. In 1995, I went into business for myself. I got into logistics in '93 in South Florida. In 1995, I went into business for myself because the company I was working for was a husband and wife and got divorced. And it was just, everything was still there. You know what I'm saying? Like you just had to move shit. Like, okay, here's a business, let's move it. And then, you know, lean is a whole nother story. That just easily morphed into a business. But starting this business had to do everything. Like we'd have a phone number and somebody's like, okay, what's our phone number? I'm like, shit, people have phone numbers anymore. You used to have to call the phone company to get your phones turned on. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, shit, we have phones. We don't have a phone number for the website. So like everything from website to accounting to, I mean, just every little thing you have to start. It's like building a house, right? You don't just walk in and put the floors in and it's there. So it's pretty crazy and I didn't have all those skills to like do that. Like I never started a business from day one scratch myself and have to lay out everything. So it's been pretty interesting. It's I don't know that I'd say it's like all fun because it's a lot of work, man. You don't realize everything you got to do. I mean, it's, you know, like even your podcast, you have to, even when you get your podcast up and do it from scratch, like you have to do everything. Like, so it's been crazy. It's been crazy, but it's exciting, man. Feel like I missed a lot of opportunities along the way, you know, on the .coms and the cryptos and all that. I think AI is one of those things that everybody didn't get into it early. It's going to look back and at least learn it and understand it and do it and implement it in your daily life and use it. It's kind of like the people that hesitated to switch to the iPhone. You know, it's like when they finally did, they're like, why did I wait this long? So it's pretty cool. You know, I need to do something, man. I can't just vacation all over the world.
I know that about you.
You have to do something.
Let's take it back a step though, because for the I know you well, and so it's easy for you and I to sit here and just get right into it. But I got to introduce you to the audience a bit because you haven't, you've been a part of a big business, two businesses, and we're very involved in lean staffing, but you weren't exactly like kind of the face of it outwardly.
Yeah.
And so my audience maybe doesn't know you, and so let's introduce them. Let's take them back.
Yeah.
You said you got into the space in 1993.
Yeah.
Um, what brought you into the space? What were you doing? Was that as a brokerage, an LTL company? What were you doing?
So it's kind of a crazy little story, man. I was always in phone sales, like from when I sold the newspaper door to door when I was, 12 years old. So I was always in sales. I got into phone sales, selling magazine subscriptions, bacteria for septic tanks, like you name it. I was selling it on the phone. And so I was going to go be a stockbroker. And in 1987, you had to be 18 to be a stockbroker. So I was studying for my Series 7, and they said, go do some more telemarketing, but find something in like this sales. And I forget what they told me kind of geared on. So I open the paper and I look and I see these ads that say make 2,000-3,000 a week. If you like sports, it's great. So I called up and the first call, there was 2 ads in the paper. I'll never forget. I called the first one. He says, all right, what do you know about sports? I'm like, I play sports. I'm an athlete. I golf. I play baseball. Like, I'm an athlete. I know everything about sports. He goes, all right, what's a parlay? And I'm like, fuck, what's a parlay? I'm like, does that have to do with golf? He goes, it's not for you. And he hangs up on me. It's like a rough New Yorker. Hangs up on me. Bam. And so I go, okay, well, I blew that one. Let me figure out what the hell a parlay is. So I asked around a couple people. I call my dad, what's a parlay? He goes, I think that's something. In what aspect? I go, gambling. He goes, I think that's when you like bet a couple teams together or something. So I called the next ad and I was ready. I knew what a freaking parlay was. So I called because it's crazy ads, like make 2,000-3,000 a week. Like I'm 18, I'm 17 years old. It was a sports touting service. So I call up the next one, and so he says, all right, come on in. So I come in. I never forget. I go in. I sit down. He goes, I thought I'm interviewing. He goes, no, let's go to work. Get on the phone. I'm like, what? He's like, get on the phone. Let's see what you could do. So he puts a script in front of me. I get on the phone, and I was relentless in phone sales. Like you couldn't stop. You know how it is. In sales, you have to be relentless. And at an early age, I just was. And so the first day I get in, I made a couple sales. So I worked 3 days the first week, and I made $800. And then I'm like, okay. Shit. The next week I worked a full week. I made $3,500. I'm like, the hell am I going to be a stockbroker for? So I started doing this business, and then we were getting leads out of Western Union and at Western Union. So I ended up becoming a partner in a phone room at 18 years old, and we had 30 people on the phone. We were getting leads out of Western Union, and then like anytime anybody would send money to a sports touting service, Western Union would show who it was, name, phone number. So the leads were like gold. And then all of a sudden, Western Union changed their whole system, and the leads dried up. So from there, so I made a lot of money there. I was making $50,000 a week at 18 years old. It was insane. I mean, I had a Ferrari, I was going to Atlantis, Bahamas with a fake ID, gambling every other weekend. So it was just insane. I mean, look how big sports betting is now. I mean, it's crazy, right? Like when you look at the sports touting, it's huge. So from there, so I had to figure out what I'm going to do because the leads dried up, and you go from making that kind of money, making nothing, and struggling and having to recycle leads. So I got an opportunity to get a Cellular One franchise. It was Bell South and Cellular One, and I was big into car stereos. We were building car stereos, and there was a guy that worked for a company called Audio Advisors. He says, "Hey, we're building these crazy mini trucks and car stereos." And simultaneously, it's like weird in life. Everything kind of happens, like, and then you get something happens. It's like the butterfly effect, right? So I go in to get my cars washed at this exotic car wash place, and he's got room. He's got 2 bays. So I ask him one day. I go in. I go, hey, can I start building new car stereos and stuff here? He's like, yeah, no problem. I don't use those bays. Why don't you do that? So I gave me a little desk, and I did the 2 bays. I started building car stereos, and then I said, hey, let me do cell phones too. So I call up Bell South. They want nothing to do with me. You had to have a business, and you had to have like all this. So I call up Cellular One, and they're like, yeah, you got a good site. The guy comes out. He goes, this is a great site. Let's put Cellular One here. So I was one of the first Cellular One franchises in Lighthouse Point, Florida. And I started doing car phones, the old brick phones, in the bag, and then the ones you put in the car. So I was...
You're saying, you forget I'm 34 years old.
God,
I have no idea what you're talking. I mean, I think I've seen it in...
You're a baby.
In Scarface, I think they had one of those. I know you do.
That was the 80s. I got a kid your age. I just had my 5th grandkid, by the way. Hunter just had his 2nd baby 2 weeks ago.
Did he really?
Yeah, he actually had it on his birthday. So in the old days, the cell phones used to be installed in the car, and they were like a handset that would be in the glove box or set up next to it, and you'd pick it up and you'd be on the phone cruising, like looking cool. So I started doing that in car stereos. And and then all of a sudden, this guy that used to work for me in my sports touting room comes in. I know him. He come in to get a car stereo, and I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "You're not going to believe it, man. I got, I was working for this trucking company who's out of business back then, and you won't even remember them, so I won't even bring up their name. But I was working for this trucking company, and I decided I'm going to take all my customers." And I'm going to go to Carolina Freight and CF Freight, and I'm going to see which one gives me the best discount. And whenever one gives me a discount, I'm going to put all this business there. So I went to both of them. Carolina gave me a discount, and I took all the biggest shippers in Miami, ship with me, and all I do is put third-party bill to my company on the bill, and all the bills come to me. I rebill them, and I make 20%. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, they get a 50% discount. I get a 60, and I just print money like magic beans. They just come in the mail. I rebill them, and the check come. I'm like, fuck, this guy's not that sharp. If he could do this shit, I could do it. So I go, let me see what you're doing, man. Shit. So I went and I saw what he was doing, and I realized this freight business. Like, I had no exposure to freight whatsoever. I said, so let me understand this. I can go to a dock on Miami. I can jump on the dock. I can tell the guy, hey, I just saw ABF pull out of here. I'll tell you what's your discount? 45%. I'll give you 50%, and we'll use Carolina. And by the way, let's go to lunch. And you like the Marlins? We can go see a Marlins game, no problem. And it was shooting fish in a barrel. Like, it was like boom, 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 boom. There was nobody. You're talking about 1993. Like, there was, and so I just started building the business, and I realized what brokering was, and I'm like, why don't we do truckloads? He's like, it's too big. You bill 2,000, you only make 400. It's too risky. I'm like, what's risky about that? It's one shipment instead of 10. It's like one bill instead of 10. So I got him the license, and then we started making so much money. He started cheating on his wife, and I had 3 girlfriends, and his wife was his wife was in the business, so she's take the money out of the bank, and so they were ruining the business. So I had one big customer, and I still remember. I'm still friends with this guy today, and I tell the story. And so I call this guy. His name's Bill Bailey. He was with a company called Precision Delivery Systems in Miami, and Circuit City was my biggest account. I did all of the distribution for South Florida for Circuit City, and he did it for me. So I called Bill and I said, Bill, this is a shit show here. I think this company's like going under. Like, I don't want to see you get burnt. Like I don't know what's going on. So he says, man, I go, what do you want to do? I go, I'll just give you Circuit City. I don't want to see you get burnt, man. He goes, well, what are you going to do? I go, I don't know, man. I think I'm going to do it myself. I don't know. I got to decide. So I go home that day and I tell my soon to be ex, my wife, then I tell her what was going on. She goes, you could do it. Just open it up. What's the problem? I'm like, really? You think it's so easy? It's not that easy. So she goes, whatever. You always end up doing it. So I go back. I tell them, listen, I'm going to open up my own business. And
I'm surprised. Hold on. I'm surprised that you had any kind of angst about doing that, because it seems like you're such a go-getter. Like, I mean, every part of, from the gambling service to the car stereos, it's like you were just jumping into it.
Was a different business. Like, I needed a real accountant. You needed accounts receivable, accounts payable. Like, I didn't know anything really much about accounting, and you had to go get an office. The other ones kind of just came together. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just, I was there, I did it, boom. This I had to, I guess
the one you were doing out of a car wash.
Yeah.
Service,
so I had to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, all right, let me go do it. And I didn't know how much money it was going to take. I had to fund it, and I'm only 23 years old. So I'm young. And so I go back and I tell Bill, Bill, I'm going to open my own business. I go, I'll tell you what, hold the billing. Let's see what this company does. If they go under, I'm going to open my business. And then if they go under, I'll let you bill Circuit City directly. And Circuit City, you'd send the bills, they pay you the next day, which surprisingly, because they went bankrupt, but they paid us like clockwork. So sure enough, the company, boom, they split. They have a nasty divorce. They tear each other apart. So I leave. I open up my own company, and he says, Dave, you bill Circuit City with your new company, and bill them for a couple months. Get your company up and running, and take as long as you need to pay me. I'm like, what? He said, yeah. Like, listen, if it wasn't for you, I would have got burnt like 3 months. So I'm okay. Like, how much time do you need? So I said, and I had like 2 months of billing at that point. It was like $70 or $80,000. And I said, I don't know, Bill. Okay. So I bill him. I get the $80,000 the next day, $70, $80,000 next day. I go get the office. I go get furniture. I go get phones. I get everything, and I get set up. And a couple people were with the company, came with me, and I billed him. And I think 3 months later, I paid him. And that's how I started in logistics, is because of him. If he didn't do that for me, I don't know if I would have had all of the money to go get everything, because by the time it was all said and done, like, I was out of the money. Like, I went through the money fast. By the time you get I mean, I had an office with, I had big ambitions. So I was thinking, I had an office with 15 desks. I had two people, 4 offices and 15 desks. So like I wanted to go big, and I've always just gone big. Like, and even in logistics, like I bootstrapped it the entire time. I went through bootstrapped it the entire time. Never got a loan. Always managed payables, hustling payables. I said, I'll pay you this week. You help me out, and
And
it's just
was this a brokerage?
yeah.
Like an LTL brokerage, essentially?
It was a LTL brokerage. Yeah, yep. So
And
I got.
how long were you in that business? How big did you get? Like, how many people did you get it to? What did that look like?
I mean, I grew it. Then I made I did a merger with an actual trucking company in 2000 in 1997. So it gave me like 30 trucks that ran the East Coast only, which is still running today. There's
What company is that?
company called Gold Eagle Logistics.
Okay.
And they still do all the Northeast business today, back and forth. It was part of when I sold in 2018, when I sold Smith, they were an agent of mine. They were like a partner agent of mine, and a guy named Andy Mendoza ran it. And when I sold, he didn't want to be a part of it, and they didn't want assets. People don't want to buy assets, so they want assets. So I spun them out. I said, listen, don't worry about it. Just go. I won't make you part of the sale. I mean, I was only taking 5%, as an agent fee, so it wasn't like a huge part of what we were doing. And they didn't really like, they didn't like assets, and they didn't want to. They didn't want to build something. They didn't like the agents. Matter of fact, when I sold it, I had 14 agents. When I sold it, I think they got rid of all of them. Which
Yeah.
I mean, it was printing money, so it's I don't know why they would, but I think they did. But it's still running, and I had that, and I thought if I had trucks, like those 30 trucks were in every shipper in Miami with assets. I'm like, okay, if I can get in there, I can go in there. They're only doing New York. I can expand and do everywhere else with all these customers. So I opened up. I ended up putting on 30 trucks that went everywhere else too. We built it to like right away. We got to like 60 trucks and went everywhere. We were hauling for every freight forwarder, Panalpina, Eagle, like every freight forwarder in Miami was using us. And I just built. I went from doing like 6 million a year to doing like 40 million a year in like a year and a half. Like finished a year, and then at the end of the year, the next year I was on a run rate for over 40 million. And
Wow.
and just grew it, and then continued to grow it, and just went through all the pains and ups and downs of freight. And then in 2012, and by the way, Robert Cadena worked for me during that period. That's how I met Robert. Robert came to work for me at that trucking company.
So
And
hold on. When did you get involved with Smith Transport?
so that became Smith Transport. That company became Smith Transport.
Okay.
We through some merger. So in comes Lee Futernick, my partner, who on FTS, who sold to C.H. Robinson in 2002. We ended up merging, being partners, because we were the two largest in Miami, and we went head to head. So one day I meet up with him, and he was, we were battling over all the business, and he says, let's do a deal. And at that time, my father-in-law was working for me, and he got prostate cancer. So he was kind of like my partner, so to speak. I started the business, but I brought him in, and he was a partner, but he got prostate cancer, and he was wanting to retire. So I said, I ran into Lee. Lee's a great guy. And he said, why don't we do something together? He had sold to C.H. Robinson. He was looking to get back in the business. And he goes, I'm going to put the gang back together, but what do you want to do? And I said, well, let's do something. So we put it together. We rebranded. It was called Cargo Transportation. We rebranded it Smith Cargo Transportation because his family started Smith Terminal Warehouse in 1950, and so they had a huge history, a great logistics history in Miami. And then he started Smith Terminal Warehouse. He made the brokerage FTS, Futernick Transportation Services, and so we became partners. And he came in, and we built the company. And in 2012, Robert Cadena, I ran into Robert Cadena, and which is a crazy story. I never should have been. I shouldn't have run into him, but I just run into him. It's like bizarre. So I run into him. I'm like, hey, Robert, what are you doing? Oh, good to see you, Dave. And he worked for me in the 90s. So I'm like, what are you doing? How's everything? And I knew he had a company because I hauled for him. He had a company called Chain Express, and he would use me because I did LTL. I was consolidating LTL in Florida, California, Northeast, going all over. So he would use me. So I always knew he was there. I would periodically hear from him, but I never saw him. I haven't seen him in 6-7 years. And he says, hey, can I come see you tomorrow? So he comes to my office, sees me, and says, we had a huge customer, me and my partner, we lost it. It was like 70% of our business. You got anything I can do? You got any ideas? Like, what can we do together? So it was during a time when it was very difficult to get people. So I'm like, how many people do you have? And he's like, I got 4 people, but they're all in Colombia. And I'm like, Colombia? How am I going to do with people in Colombia? Like, what? I don't need people in Colombia. I need people here. I need real people here in my office. Not some people in Colombia. What are people in Colombia? What is that? So he picks up the phone and dials the girl, and he immediately tells her I'm with a customer, so she speaks perfect English, and he starts talking about a shipment that went LTL that had to be pulled off and expedited, and she was handling it. She did a perfect job, and I'm like, man, how much you paying her? What? And I had like 30 people doing this LTL brokerage, and I was barely making money because LTL brokerage is a crappy business, man. If you ever did it, it's like very
Is it?
difficult. It's very difficult because there's always
Talk
relays
about
and
that for a minute,
claims.
because I haven't gotten into LTL a lot in this podcast,
Oh,
so maybe there's an opportunity for you to
well,
educate our
there's
audience
so
here. Like,
many.
what are the challenges of LTL
Right.
brokerage?
So LTL brokerage challenges is the archaic measuring system in which they classify stuff. So everything is classed and everything's reclassed and reweighed, and this dimension programs, and shippers are always trying to scam the classes. So they're, it's just, and there's always, it's always delays and damages, and it's just if you do 100% of your business and 20% of it is LTL and 80% is truckload, 20% of your problems all your problems come from that 20% of the LTL. So, and then it's bills, it's $300 bills, and then they're short paying you $30, and then you gotta call them and figure out why they're short paying you $30 and argue with the carrier. And I'll tell you a story. One year, I ended up talking to XPO. I emailed Bradley Jacobs. He actually talked to me about it. This was back when he was making acquisitions, and I'm like, the SMC3 decide that they're going to get rid of a class. Okay, they're just going to get rid of this class. No, we don't want it to exist anymore. We're going to get rid of it. Okay, well, all my shippers that use that class ship for 6 more months under that class. So they keep billing for the new class, which is more money, obviously. They keep billing for it. So I'm getting these bills. All of a sudden I owe XPO like $180,000 of this new class. I'm like, I don't understand this. What is? So when they finally explain to me, I understand, and I'm like, so you mean to tell me you all get together, you change class, you don't tell anybody, and then you expect us and then you do it until we cry and scream and you cut our account off. Well, how did you do business like that? So I emailed Brad Jacobs. I'm like, this is absurd. And so he ended up getting involved. I got it settled, and then I realized, okay, got me once, don't get me again. And so just like little nuances like that, it's crazy. And you have to go to SMC3. They're like the LTL rate mafia. So it's just listen. In the end, when you look at the Global Trans and the Worldwide Expresses and the Echoes that do a ton of this LTL stuff, and I had to do it because I consolidated LTL. So I would put a trailer. I had a big, when Watkins sold to FedEx, I hired like 27 of their sales reps in Florida, and all this LTL business came. So I would put a trailer into an account and pick up all the freight, bring it back to the dock, peel off all the good stuff that I wanted going to California, Chicago, and the good areas, 3 pallets or more, and I give all the 1 to 2 pallets going to the shitty areas to the LTL carriers. And so that business was lost leader. I'd lose money on it. And so when I moved that operation down to Columbia,
The lost leader was the 1, 2, 3 pallet stuff.
Yeah.
But the good stuff, how did that pan out for you?
I would consolidate. I'd build trucks, put 4 or 5 stops on a truck, and have $4 a mile going out of Florida. So it's crazy. I'd have crazy revenue. All of a sudden
you're making $2,000-$3,000 a load,
and then I would get a load. I would go to Chicago, final in Chicago or Minnesota, and then I get a load from CH or Echo or Command or Coyote or any of those guys back to Florida. One pig, one drops right back to Florida because that was easy. Find a truck in Chicago or Minnesota that's begging you for a load to Florida. It doesn't really exist. So I would put and I had 150 company trucks. So I would send all my trucks out with huge revenue load to ride, and I bring them back with a one pick, one drop. And I did business with all the brokers in the country because when I'm talking to them about getting a load to back in the Florida, I'm like, hey, you got any LTL? You got any LTL? Where do you go? And I had California, Northeast, and Florida. So I started doing their LTL out there. That's how, I don't know, you had to hear the story of how I met Matt at Arrive, no?
No, tell me.
You never heard the story?
Pilot, right? No, how'd you
never heard that? Okay, so fast forward because we only got a short period of time. If I keep rambling on, we'll be here for like 2 days.
No, you're doing great. It's wonderful.
So Jeff Mazer, of course, everybody knows the legend Jeff Mazer. So Jeff Mazer gets on a group text in Ohio and says, "Hey, my rough life. I got to go back down to Columbia for work. This is brutal." And he's being sarcastic. Another 3 days of drinking and partying and rough business. So everybody starts chiming in this group chat and Facebook, going, "Oh, when are you going to take me? When am I going?" And it turns out Jeff's best friend, Rod's son, is best friends with Matt Pyatt. And Matt Pyatt's in the group for some reason. So Matt chimes in.
What's the timeline of this? This is 2017. He's at Arrive at this point, or he
started Arrive. This has to be 2013. When did he start
Arrive? I think was 2015.
Okay, so it had to be 2015. It was when he had just started Arrive. He's like 8 months in business, 7 months in business. So So he chimes in, what's the business you got to be in to go to Colombia? I'm sure, Matt liked Colombia, so he wanted to go to Colombia. He's like, what business you got to be in? So Jeff goes, the logistics business. So Matt writes back in the chat. I want to see if Jeff has that still today, because that'd be pretty cool. He writes back in the chat, I'm going to be the fastest growing logistics company ever. You need to take me to Colombia. So Jeff's like, what?
I think I've sent a text like that before, not about Colombia, but just about the
fastest
aggressive. Yes. I'm going to be the fastest growing. Well, I probably sent that text to him.
Yeah. He probably recycled that text, regifted it. So Jeff ends up on a call with him. It just so happens he's coming to Florida that weekend to come down and see a customer who's in Miami. So Jeff tells me who it is. So of course I look it up and I'm doing business with him. I'm like, oh, we offer arrive out of California. And then I look at what we're doing, and it's one of my direct customers that he stole from me. And I'm like, looking, this company called Leonard Parker. I'm like, why is he getting Leonard Parker? And Lee, my partner, is best friends with the owner of Leonard Parker. And I go into Lee, I go, how much our freight went to a broker? This is your best friend. He goes, I don't know, Dave. I'm in accounting. I'm in the accounting side, and you run sales. So of course Matt flies in.
Good point. It's on you.
So I tell him, I go, yeah, you're hauling my customers' freight. You're giving me my customers' freight. He goes, what? I go, yeah, but I go, keep it, whatever. I don't care. Like, you can have it. Doesn't matter. So we start talking to him, and we hit it off. And he goes, I tell him what we're doing in Colombia. He goes, man, I'm going to grow like crazy. Like, you need me as a customer. So we plan a trip. We go down to Colombia, show him the operations, and he immediately became our first biggest customer. And then from there, it just felt like dominoes, everywhere we went. And that's how.
Just for those that aren't familiar, because you're new to the podcast game, but we got to make sure the audience. You and I are friends. So it feels like we're just catching up, but the audience has to stay up with us. So what you're talking about is lean staffing.
Well, what's known as Lean Solutions now.
Yeah, sorry, Lean Solutions. What was once Lean Staffing, now Lean Solutions. The largest nearshore staffing business in the industry, which was started by yourself, Dave, and Robert Cadena, who you mentioned before. And yes, Pyatt and Arrive were your first big customers.
They weren't the first. They were the first big one. Like ARL was one of our first customers. Yeah, they were the first one to say, "Give me 100 people." Like, we used to put on 5 people, 10 people. We thought we were king of the world. Ringing the gong like it's going no tomorrow. And Pyatt's like, "Give me 100 people, and I'm going to grow to 500." We're like, what? So we went and had to get big offices, and so he was the first one. I think when he came on, we had maybe 100 employees total when he came on. Like, we just started really going hard in 14, 15, and 16. I told Robert, this is a real business. Get out of this logistics thing. Because Robert ran the LTL brokerage portion. He ran that in Colombia. So I said, listen, we bought him out of that. We gave him a nice severance package and said, go be the CEO and start this company. I did the business plan. I laid it out. I went down to Colombia. I had a friend who was in the call center business. He went to Colombia with me. He said, Dave, I think this is an opportunity. He gave me the financial pro forma, which was what made me do Lean Solutions, Lean Staffing back then. I never forget, it was a spreadsheet he sends to me, and it has all the costs plugged in, and it has revenue per seat plugged in, and it has EBITDA plugged in here. So I start plugging in, okay, what am I going to bill? Back then we were billing $1,500 a seat. I mean, it's crazy. Back then I think it's $2,600, $2,700 a seat now, because the FX and inflation and everything, it's doubled. But so I plug in $1,500 a seat, and I plug in 100, and I plug in.
That's $1,500 a seat
gross a month. Yeah, that's the cost of what Lean was billing a customer back then per person.
Yeah,
all included, everything included. And like I said, now it's like 2,500 to 2,700. So I go plug it in. I plug in one seat at 1,500, 10 seats at 1,500, 100 seats, 1,000 seats, and I'm watching EBITDA, and then I plug in 10,000 seats. And so I just decided to put an enterprise value there, conservative, like 10x EBITDA. And at 10,000 seats, it got to over $1 billion of value. And I'm like, what? So I call up Ed. I go, Ed, I go, is this right? He goes, all right, run through. He goes, yeah. He goes, you think you can get 10,000 seats? I go, I think I can, man. Like, it's logistics. Like, it's huge. I'm worried. I got 50 people down there myself. I got customers coming, and they're begging me, give me people, set up my satellite office, like was what we coined the term, set up your satellite office. I said, I think I can get, like, I'm just doing the math. Like, it might take 5 years, but I think I can. And they we're over 10,000 seats down there now. So it's pretty crazy.
So it's cool, because you were telling the story of meeting Robert Cadena again, and how he had you get on the phone with one of his employees who was in Colombia. That's the whole genesis for starting lean staffing.
The whole thing, man.
Like you and Robert
So
get on the phone with one of his current LTL
well,
employees that happen to be working in
one more step
Colombia.
that happened that made the light bulb come on. So at that moment, I didn't think about lean staffing. It wasn't even a thought. I thought about me. I thought about Smith.
You were just like,
I'm
I
like,
should put some employees down
I
there
have
because
30 people in Tampa. I'm losing 500,000 a year on this loss leader business of these 1 and 2 pallet LTL brokerages. Robert's here saying, "Listen, I just lost my biggest customer. I can handle all that business, and we could grow it, and I can make money with it because I'm staffing for." He was paying people $400 a month. So, like, I mean, he was paying people way less. So when I had the office, then we were paying
this is way
$400 a
long
month.
ago, right?
Yeah,
So that was
10 years, over 10
reasonable
years
for in Colombia.
Yeah, over 10 years ago. Like I said, it's double. It's over double now. I mean, I think the average is like 900 plus taxes plus everything. So that's why it's up as high as it is. So I started running it. We moved people down there. It started going, and then we started getting like, hey, is that person in Colombia? Like that's interesting. So then I went and made a sales call. I went and called on a friend of mine who had a food business, shipper business that I didn't do business with. And it's another thing. Like my kids played lacrosse, so I'm at the lacrosse game. His wife's there, and he's not there. And I'm like, hey, where's Todd? They're like, oh, our logistics manager quit. And I'm not the kind of guy, I never ask friends for business. Like, if you're my neighbor, I'm not going over and becoming friends with you to get your business. I just never did that. I thought it was tacky. I just wasn't my style. So I said, oh, he lost his logistics manager. Well, if I can help, let me know. That's what I do. Let me know. And so he immediately, like 4 minutes later, texts me, you can help me with my logistics problem. I lost my logistics manager. I have nobody. It's a shit show. Can you help me? So I said, all right, I decided I'll be there Monday. So I go to his office Monday and I bring Robert with me and Mazer. And we're sitting there and I'm looking and this guy's doing everything on spreadsheets and paper. And this guy just up and left him. So all these loads, and he was delivering to municipalities, prisons, schools, frozen and refrigerated LTL. It was a shit show. So I'm like, I don't think I want this freight, but I said, what if I give you Mercury Gate? I had Mercury Gate back then. You could white label it. I said, I'll give you Mercury Gate. You'll put all your loads in Mercury Gate. So at least see what you have. I'll see your carriers when and then I'll give you a couple people in Colombia because I have an office in Colombia. I'll give you a couple of my people to manage it all and do all the work. And they know Mercury Gate, so they'll be able to get in. And so he goes, what? How much? I go, I don't know. Let me figure it out. So he goes, let's go. Let's do it. I don't care. And he gives it to me. So I go, okay, Robert, give me like 2 really good people down there that could do this. So he gave me 2 people and I marked it up like 3X. I think I was charging him like 2,500, 2,800. We were paying nothing. So that was the first indication for me. I walked out and I said, wow, this is crazy. That was the easiest sell ever. Like, I'm a sales guy. When you're jumping in my lap and giving me the business and signing the deal, I'm like, that's what I want to sell. And
you're creating value too. So it's
Yeah.
not like you're just charging a bunch of money and not doing anything.
No,
good
I've
here.
always, in sales, I can never sell anything that doesn't create value. Like, if you give me a product that is good and a customer needs, I'll sell the shit out of it. But if you give me something they don't need and can't use, I can't sell it, man. I don't want to sell somebody something they can't need. And it's just, I can't. So this was something I knew. This was something I knew I could sell like crazy. I knew it. So then 2 things happen. So that happens. Robert goes to the Mercury Gate conference in Las Vegas. They had a conference every year. And he's talking to the guys at AIT. And AIT is complaining about Mercury Gate because it's miserable. You got to wait months to get updates and customization. And so Robert says to the guy, oh, we have our own Mercury Gate super user. He goes, what? He goes, yeah, we have our own Mercury Gate super user down in Colombia. We got a couple of them because we know we don't want to go to Mercury Gate to get shit done. So we got our own super user. He goes, can I use them? And Robert's like, yeah, no problem. So he calls me and goes, hey, our guy, can we like use our super user and do that? I go, he's begging you for a super user in Colombia too? So like within the span of a week, 2 people are begging us for people in Colombia. I'm like, Robert, I think this is a business. So I went and wrote the business plan, and then I called Ed and said, hey, how do I do this call center type business? I want to do like a 50-seat pilot to see what it does and sell it. And then I just started going to all of the people I knew and like ARL and all these guys I do business with and saying, hey, you're talking to Jolene. She's down in Colombia. She's good, right? Yeah. You know how much I pay her? How much are you paying people? Why don't you give all those bullshit little back off the track, all the bullshit tasks and put 4 people in Colombia and then, you use the money you're saving to boost up sales. So everybody bought it, and we just started getting like little itty bitty customers, 3 and 4 people, and then Pyatt comes along, and he's the whale of the century. I want 400 people, give them all. So and then it just morphed. It just morphed into this crazy business.
Just for context, because I think it could sound bad, but I don't think. But knowing it because I've been part of it, it's not bad. these are people who, without jobs like
Yeah.
these in Colombia, would not have jobs to work, right? I mean, like
They,
there's not like a ton of opportunity down there
yeah.
that they'd be like. It's not like you're
Yeah.
taking advantage of these people down
No,
there.
no, not at all. It's different today than it was then because back then there were no jobs. Today, Colombia is on fire. Like Colombia is a hot Latin American country that there's a lot of work down there. So it's way more competitive now.
Is
But then there,
the work down there all this same type of work? It's like everyone's caught on to
no,
this idea and it's call
no,
center
no,
type
no.
work.
There's a lot of call centers down there, but there's big companies down there. A lot of the work was in hospitality before, the last 6 years when it took off. But these are educated kids, like they're young kids that they have a lot of Americanized schools down there. So Colombia is like the most like America in Latin America. They study in English, like so. There's a lot of English influence and American influence in Colombia, and so we tapped into that. And Robert knew it because his dad's a retired admiral in the Navy. He ran all the cruise ships into Cartagena. So we opened in Cartagena, and Robert had this pool of like already English speaking hospitality people that we were able to tap into. So for those people, there's job for majority of the people in these third world countries in Latin America. There's not a lot of jobs, they're poverty level. But for this class of people that are working in the hospitality industry, but they're getting paid peanuts. So when we came along, we were paying twice the average wage to these hospitality workers, and it was amazing for them. Like
That's what I wanted to clarify,
yeah,
because when
yeah,
you're like, we're paying them nothing, it could sound
no,
like you're taking advantage,
yeah,
but you're
yeah.
not. I mean, it's relative
No,
to,
no.
it's like
Robert, yeah, he's
the thing
no,
about
yeah.
go ahead. I was just gonna say the
No, no,
thing
no. Go ahead.
about
Yeah,
this type of business, because we used you guys. It was
yeah,
great.
yeah, good.
And
Yeah,
we used you guys, we used Rapido, like two
yeah.
great companies in
Yeah,
the
Rapido's
space
great.
that have
Rapido's
done
great, by
wonderful
the way. I
work.
love those guys. To have a
Yeah.
competitor, like we had some other competitors that we didn't get along with and didn't like very much, but the
I
Rapido
didn't like
guys
those guys either.
are really good dudes, man. Really good guys.
Yeah.
They have a good product, and being in Mexico, they didn't really step into our area. We didn't step into theirs, and I like those guys a lot, man. And I saw them at
But
your wedding, so I know they're good friends of
yeah.
yours, and anything I could ever do for those guys, happy to
But
do it.
But what I was going to say is, like, when I looked at this business, I was trying to understand, like, why does this make sense? And then you realize that, like, I couldn't get my, the kids I hired out of Indiana and Michigan State and, wherever, these Big Ten schools. For one, they demanded at least 40 something $1,000 a year.
Yeah.
And two, they didn't want to do the job of calling and tracking a load or
Well, and
even
three,
scheduling
as soon as
loads
they
sometimes.
learned that job, they were gone to someone else. So you invest in them, and then they're gone. Like
Exactly.
you put money and time, and then they're like, "Thank you for the experience. I'm going to go use you to get another job."
So the alternative is individuals in Colombia where there's not as many good jobs. And yeah, I'm paying a fraction now of what I would be paying to someone here. And they actually maybe enjoy the work. It's at least more enjoyable than what they otherwise would be doing. So like, it's just the opportunity available in both countries that makes it very
For
attractive to
sure.
want to use companies like Lean, because like it's just a very different opportunity available to these individuals
Well,
versus what,
it's funny too because when we first started, it was Nick, Ryan, and Hunter. They were the first one. They were in a little office in the back of my logistics company selling lean. It was like a closet they were in, and I used to walk in there. Hey guys, what's going on? And one day I walk in, and Nick is someone that slams the phone, and I go, man, this is tough, man. I'm like, what's so tough about it, Nick? Tell me. He goes, this guy just hung up the phone and said, putting people in Colombia, that's un-American. Bam. He's like, I'm like, all right, well, send him our stuff anyway. Send him so you got his email? Yeah. Send him a brochure and say, listen, so one of our partners back then, he wrote a paper on why nearshoring is patriotic. And the paper, I have to see if we even still have it, but it basically said that people don't want these jobs. It's like trying to say, oh, all these jobs we want that we want Americans to have, they don't want to do. And companies are investing into them, and then they're leaving and they have to replace them. And it's mundane, low level back office jobs. Put those there, use the savings you have to invest in real jobs people want, sales and good jobs, and use that in your business to grow your business. For every two people you have down there, if you can hire one salesperson here, you're doing America a favor. You're creating jobs that could actually pay the bills. And so he wrote a paper on it, and we gave it to them to like send out when anytime somebody says that. And Nick was the funniest ever. So I told these guys, listen, I'm too busy. I don't have time to teach you how to sell. These are young guys. You're talking about, I think Nick was 24, Hunter was 19, 20, and Ryan was 25, 24, 25, and they had no sales experience. So I'm like, listen, I don't have time to teach you. Go get a. So they went on Jordan Belfort's straight line hiring and took the course. And so I would get the calls in and I would laugh. I mean, Hunter and Ryan were pretty much steady average salespeople, but
To be
Nick,
clear, these are your children we're talking about.
yeah,
Hunter and Ryan.
Ryan's my
Nobody,
oldest.
again,
Yeah,
the audience
yes,
doesn't know this, but Hunter and Ryan are two of your kids.
Ryan's my oldest son. Hunter's my youngest son. Ryan's given me 3 grandkids already. Hunter just gave me my second grandkid to make 5. His second, so I have 5. And then Nick is like an adopted kid with me. I kind of adopted Nick and took him out of college in Minnesota from a friend. So I get this call and it's like it's Nick. And Nick, if anybody, I want to know people that know Nick could laugh about this. If you don't know Nick, it's hard to laugh about it. But I'm listening to this call and it's like, hey Joe, yeah, hey, it's Nick. Dead silence. Okay, Nick. Nick says nothing for like 8 seconds. Awkward as hell. He's like, yeah, it's Nick from Lean. And he's like, Nick, what do you want? Like, spit it out. The guy's like, oh, we're nearshoring. Have you heard of us? And he ends up closing the guy. And I'm like, Nick, you're so freaking weird and awkward. It's different. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it because it's this awkwardness is creating. You're not just the average go right in. How you doing? How's the weather? What you doing? This bullshit, pitch that everybody does. And so it worked for him. And then he got so discouraged because it was very tough to sell lean, man. For the first 2 years, it was hard. And Nick was thinking he was going to fail and he was going to move home to Minnesota. I believed in lean so much. I go, Nick. And what happened is Nick's apartment was up. His lease where he was staying, he had to go get a new place. He had to buy furniture and do all that. And he was strapped for cash. And I go, listen, Nick, I believe so much. I went and bought a townhouse. I furnished it and I put him in there. I said, listen, when I'll you can rent it for the next 6 months. And if it doesn't work, then I'll keep it on as investment property. I rent it out. And I put him in a nice townhouse right next to the office. And I said, you stay here and do this. I promise you it's going to work, man. I know it works. I know it does. It worked for me. I got 50 people. Works for me. It'll work for every logistics company. I promise you. So he got back in and he just grinded. Then we started doing the TIA trade shows and the freight waves. And then Robert spun out. And so he stayed and he's crushed it. He's done amazing.
He's great.
Yeah. All
it's crazy because
Hunter, all of them have done amazing.
Yeah, Hunter closed me. Hunter got my business. I'll never forget that.
That's a great story too. That's a great story. I mean,
just getting a LinkedIn.
He was up in college. He was working out of his apartment. He was an intern.
I get a lot of LinkedIn messages from people selling me. I get a lot of emails from people selling me. And there was something about getting a LinkedIn message. Oh yeah, of course I break a lot of people's balls. I got to mess with people a little bit.
He did,
especially once I know I like someone and I know I'm going to give them business. That's when I start to mess with them a little bit more. But something about the fact that the intern had the kind of the gusto to just get right into the CEO's inbox and be like, hey, I want to talk to you. Like, I love that. I mean, I am probably more likely to take a call from an intern than I am a seasoned salesperson.
I'm the one who did that. I coined that. I said, listen, nobody wants to hear from fucking sales jerks. Like, they don't have no time. I get them all day long. I don't want to hear from them. I give them 2 seconds. I'm like, thank you anyway. And because I don't want to have bad sales karma. I go, listen, tell them you're an intern. You're cutting your teeth. You're getting your feet. Everybody wants to help the kid trying to cut his teeth and learn because we were all there, right? We've all been there.
You got me.
I'm like, listen, boom, go right to the CEO. Hey, I'm an intern, and we did it, and Nick did it, Ryan did it, Hunter did it. Nick's still doing it today. Nick's still saying, hey, I'm an intern.
No, see that I don't agree with.
No, but all my guys did that. So we used that and it fucking worked, man. It worked great. And so finish your story with Hunter because I think I fucking love that story.
Well, the story is he reached out and he was an intern and I was like, you know what, I'll give him the time of day. And and that was the beginning of a long strong.
Then you tortured me because then he turned it over to Ryan, and Ryan closed you and got the deal. And then you said, no, I don't want Ryan. Nick, the Hunter's my guy. And Ryan's like, I'm not giving it to Hunter. And I'm like, dude, he wants Hunter. And it's like, Hunter's like, I'm not. And I'm like, because Hunter went from being an intern in college, he came home and now he's working. He's like, MoLo's mine. And Ryan's like, no, he's not. I closed it. I'm like, Ryan, I mean, technically Hunter got in. He's here because of Hunter. And I'm like, just split it, whatever. I mean, I got 2 kids arguing over this account.
Yeah. I think what that is, if you look at why, maybe, I don't remember exactly what I was thinking at that time, but I always
you got the business because of Hunter.
No, but that's so what I was going to say is like, I always thought that part of the hardest part in sales and brokerage is just getting somebody to give you the damn time of day and getting someone to give you the opportunity. So for me, it's like Hunter got the door open.
He did.
And so I wanted him to get credit for that opportunity.
Yeah,
So sorry,
no, and
Ryan,
he
if you
did.
listen to
No, he
this.
did. No, it just well, listen, it's just when you have but anybody that has kids and sons and actually as old as me and hasn't been in business with them and all that, like anybody that like you helped my kids, you helped Hunter and you helped Ryan, like I'll forever be grateful for that. Like when people help your kids in business and like do something like as a father, like there's nothing that replaces that. So like you did that, and I'll forever be grateful. And you were a great account for them, and MoLo still is, and ArcBest. So, appreciate that, man. And they're doing great. The best thing as a father is I have four great kids, three boys and a girl. Taylor also does some stuff for Lean and trade shows, and um, to have great kids turn out. I'm sure your parents feel the same way about you. I don't think I met your other siblings at your wedding. I think, but I think I only know Matt
The younger
really.
ones.
I really
Yeah.
only know Matt, and
Hmm.
to have good kids, man, it's just like the day you realize your kids are okay and they have careers and they're doing good is like it's such a feeling as a father. So hopefully one day you get to feel that. I know you're married now. Hopefully you'll be having kids soon,
Yeah,
and
hopefully.
and you'll feel that.
What
But that's a great feeling.
Talk a little bit about working with your kids. Like, how do you think about raising kids in a way that doesn't, by the time your kids were old enough to be certainly influenced, you had some money. So
Yeah.
like, there
My
was an
kids
opportunity
grew
to
up.
screw them up with money.
Yeah, no,
And I'm just curious,
I don't know how
talk
it
about that.
happened. I don't know how it happened, man. And people talk to me. Listen, again, every single person that's ever met my kids has come back and told me I got great kids. Like, and to me, that's the biggest accomplishment in the world. Like, there's nothing better than that. I can sell companies and make millions and land big customers. There's nothing better feeling than when somebody tells you your kids are great. And I don't know why. I mean, listen, their mother was a big influence on them. She was a stay-at-home mom. All she was a mom. Like, I mean, she was a great mom. It was always a party at our house. It was always kids at our house. Um, I don't know. I don't know what it is that made them good and how they turned out. I mean, they lived a life like we lived upper class life. They had everything they wanted. They never anything they wanted they got. Our toy room was a closed in 3-car garage with. We had so many toys. When kids came over, we would give them brand new toys and games that were never opened as parting gifts to leave just for coming over. Like we had a candy closet, not a candy drawer. Like the neighbors would just wander in our house and get candy and cookies and leave. I'd be in the kitchen and I'd see somebody come in and go in the candy and then just leave. I'm like, what that kid just? Oh, he just came and got some candy. So the whole neighborhood had access to our candy cabinet. So like they grew up. You would want to say they grew up spoiled, rotten kids, but they're not, man. They're humble. They're good kids. They work hard. And I don't know. I don't know what I did. If I could figure out the exact recipe of how I did that, I could write a best-selling book and crush it. But I don't know what it is, man. I just worked hard. I never listen. I never we me and my ex never went out. We never partied. We never we never had date night. Never went out on Saturday nights. Never took vacations without the kids. I just worked. I worked 70 hours a week for 30 years. I
Yeah.
just
I mean,
worked. That's it.
I was going to say two things I know about you is one, you're a grinder. You work
Yeah.
your butt off, and still, even today, as like an 80-year-old man who looks 50,
Thank you.
just kidding. You don't look 50. You look
72.
40. Just kidding. That's the stem cell stuff. We can talk about
It
that
is.
later.
Yes.
But as a mature adult, you've worked your butt off, and I think one of the things I've always really appreciated about you is you really take care of people.
Yeah.
And I don't know this from the perspective of people who work for you. I can assume you take great care of people who work for you, but you take great care of anybody who you really come across. And when you and I first came across each other, I guess part of it was through Hunter and your son, but I've asked you for favors before. I've asked you for advice before, and you've never batted an eye from saying you've always tried to be there. And it's one of the things I've always really appreciated about you. And even as I hear you kind of tell stories, it's clear that you're a grinder, but you're also someone who takes care of people. And I think that's like such a great thing, a lesson for a kid to learn. Like one of the greatest lessons I've learned from my own father was essentially to like, anytime someone asks you for help, try to help them. Like
Yeah.
you can't lose in those scenarios. Like worst case, if you ever need help, you can maybe ask for it, but
Yeah.
like, it just feels good to help people.
It
And,
does. Well, some people say it's
and
selfish. Some people say it's selfish what I do, like because I love helping people. I mean, I love like I've sold several companies, and when I write, I've made many millionaires, and it make me happier to see them win than myself win. And I think a couple of things I really instilled in my kids growing up is a couple of things. Is one, don't fuck with other people's shit. People care about their shit. Don't use it. Don't break it. Don't disrespect it. Two, don't ever lie or steal. Like that's the two things that no, you can't. Once you do that, you're done. And the third is be the friend in your friend group that everybody counts on without fail. You're on time. If somebody gives you something, if somebody says, "Hey, we need somebody to handle this," you need to be the nominee. If you do that stuff, sky's the limit. You'll never have a problem. And I over and over and over and over again, it's my values I instilled in them and told them that's what you need to do to be successful. You don't need to go be a doctor, a lawyer, all that bullshit, and go to college and all that nonsense. You need to be this person and you'll succeed. And then you also got to have half a brain too. I mean, intelligence, it starts with average intelligence. If you're below average intelligence, I can't help you. Like someone says you can't fix
Average
stupid.
isn't average isn't asking much. It's 50%.
If you're average and above intelligence, then you have a chance. And I said, if you do those things, if your friends look at you as the one friend they can count on no matter what and trustworthy, you'll get whatever you want in life. And I think they did that. I think anybody that knows my kids know they'll help you. They'll drop everything and help you. You can trust them and count on them. They're always going to tell you the truth. They're never going to lie or steal from you. And I think those just core values, right? Like those just simple core values. And then everybody else asked me about raising kids. I'm like, just do what you say you're going to do. You say, little Johnny, I'm taking your iPad away. Take it away. Don't that's it. It's that simple. Like just do. My kids always knew, don't fuck with dad because dad will do what he says he's going to do. And I always did that. I just did. If I said, hey, we're going to turn this car around, boom, the car got turned around if they didn't stop. And I never had a problem with my kids ever. My kids were great. I used to go to restaurants and people would come up. I had 4 kids in 4 years. And we'd be at a restaurant and they would be like, your kids are the most well-behaved kids I've ever seen. I'm like, yeah, because they know dad will kick their ass. We will go to the damn bathroom. So I never had to. I don't know if I ever would have, but because I love my kids and nothing hurts a parent more than disciplining your kids. But they knew they didn't do that, and I had great kids and still great kids today. Thank you. And hopefully, I have grandkids the same way because the generations tend to do things different. But I think those understanding those core values is all it takes. And if you're a person that has those values, and listen, like I told you, I would have done anything for you because you helped my kids. You were a CEO that talked to an intern that talked to Ryan and gave us business, and to me, if somebody always does a little something for me, I do a lot for them, something back. And that's always been my recipe for friendships and having great people. And I have people that work for me for 20 plus years, and you can't take my people. If you're in business and non-competes and all that, go ahead, try. You cannot touch my people. My people love me because I love them. You can't take them. And you're probably the same way. Your people kill for you and go through a wall, because you'll do that for them. And if you do that, you're invincible.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, that was a great little monologue.
Thank you, man.
We're gonna probably market some of that clip on LinkedIn for you. But it's true. I mean, I agree. I miss having people, and it's funny because I've seen both sides of myself with people, and I've seen points where I've had an immense kind of love, frankly, is probably the word, trust and loyalty between myself and people that I work with. And then I've also seen the other side of it when I've not been at my best, and it hurts to see how you can impact people negatively if you're not being the best version of yourself.
Anybody that knows you and knows you knows the real you too. Listen, we all do shit and shit happens and things happen, but you're a great guy, man. Everybody that knows you, I never heard anybody say a bad word about you, and you too go out of your way to help people in the same way. And you just, listen, you're just young, you're young, man. When we're young, we all do shit. Like everybody does different shit, just a matter of what it is, but everybody does shit. Nobody goes through their youth without doing shit.
Yeah. I mean, it's part of how you grow. You have to deal with some adversity in life.
And it's how you grow from it. Exactly. And who you become from those lessons that make you who you are. And all the people that went through this stuff with you see who you become. And then that's it. They know who you are, man. And that's how you build. You're only 30. I'm 24 years, almost 25 years older than you. And that's the only thing I have is 25 years. It's the same shit. And you're starting, early. You have the luxury. A lot of people aren't where you're at 30. You know what I'm saying? To be where you're at 34, but they're not where you're at 34. They're still out doing stuff and haven't got their life together yet. So you're going to be way ahead of everybody. When you're my age, you'll be doing the same shit to 34-year-olds. Telling them the same stuff.
I can only hope so. Well, listen, let's use this opportunity to get into the new business. So,
forgot about that.
Yeah, CloneOps. We're here to talk about your new business, CloneOps.ai. What prompted you wanting to get? So, for one, I mean, as we've talked about, I appreciate how transparent you are, and hopefully that doesn't come off to people as a negative, that you're so honest about some of the success you've had.
I've had failures too, man.
And
It's you
no,
don't
of
have no, you
course.
don't have success. I've had lots of ups and downs and failures, but it's we don't want to talk
But
about those.
but yeah, so what I was going to say is, you've had a ton of success. You've had a ton of success. You don't exactly need to get back into grinding a new business at 55, 54 years old. What's inspiring this? Why are you wanting to start a new business now?
So, I mean, hopefully, just keep try to shorten the story down. But so the evolution of lean, we came in, we and Robert built it. We got great private equity partners, FTV, Lead Edge Capital, great partners, and we grew the business. And with any business, it grows, it outgrows the founders, and needs to get to the next level. So we started transforming lean about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and bringing in higher level C-suite. Robert's never ran $1 billion company, and it's miraculous where we got to where you are. I've the Lean was the first $1 billion company I was ever involved in. So they started bringing in higher level C-suites, stacking the C-suite, stacking it to be a professional company to go to the next level. And Lean should be a $5 or $10 billion company in the next 3 to 5 years. So they start stacking it. So we started getting kind of pushed out a little bit, and a little bit less important. These really smart people come in and transform the business. And so I was really the first to take a big step back because I ran sales. So I basically ran sales and I oversaw finance, and Robert oversaw operations in Colombia. Well, we brought in a high level CFO from Pepsi, the Ivy Leaguer, and he's smarter than everybody combined. And so he took the finance over and kicked me out and said, I don't need your help. I know more than you. And I'm like, okay, go ahead. And so it got me out of the finance. So I just focused on sales. And then about a year later, as I look for a CRO to replace me in the sales, which is a tough thing to do because pretty much all the sales guys at Lean grew up in my house. If you go to David Bowen and Drew and Kevin, these are all core groups that grew up in my house. These are all like my kids. So I can't just turn my kids over to any CRO that comes in because he's, so I have to find the right person. So they were breaking my balls to bring in a CRO because I'm not a CRO. CRO comes in and writes the strategy and does all this shit. And I just go get
You're
business.
people.
I'm
You're
a
sit
people.
down.
I go get the
Let's go to a
business. I
game.
don't
Let's
have,
talk about what you need, and I'll make sure
right,
it's taken care of.
right.
You tell me exactly what you
Yeah.
need. I will make sure you get it.
Yeah.
That's how you
Yeah.
sell. That's how I
Right.
sell. I'm with you.
Yeah. But private equity wants structure and presentation and 40-page PowerPoints and $300,000, consultants to come in and write playbooks. And so that's what
$3
a
million
CRO does.
consultants.
3 million. Yeah. I remember when you told me you're paying like 250 or 400,000 to get a logo. I'm like, what?
250 grand for the logo. 6 months
I'm
after
like,
I got our old logo tattooed on my ass. Yeah, that was a great move. I do
I'm
love
like,
the new logo we got.
yeah, no, new logo was good, but I'm like, what idiot pays 250 for a logo? And then all of a sudden they're paying 250 for some study. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm the same idiots, but whatever. It worked. They wrote a great playbook, and so they were breaking my balls. We need a new CRO. You got to get a CRO because they wanted to go through another transaction, do a liquidity event. We've had 3 liquidity events at Lean, so they wanted to do another one and cash out because Lean grew like 6x in like 2 years. Like, I mean, it was crazy their growth. So I finally say, listen, I'm looking, man. I just don't see anybody that can do this. Like, this is an important role. Customers have to love them. The guys have to want to kill for them. If I step out of this and they're not happy, they're going to leave. Like, you don't want that. So I need the right guy.
How it works.
So they tell me in February 2 years ago, listen, you got till May to hire a CRO. I'm like, okay. So April comes and I don't have no prospects. And I'm like, listen, I don't care, man. You guys can kick and scream all you want. I'm not hiring the wrong guy. I'm not doing it. This is like my multi-generational wealth. I'm not jeopardizing it. I'm not taking these kids and putting them in the hands of some moron. Not happening. So in comes Chris Strambiello. First time I sit down with Chris, I go, what's the most important thing with you? We have a bunch of kids here that are working and they're under 30. How do you feel about that? He goes, I can't wait to mentor them. Like, I love mentoring young kids. Like I want to take these kids under my wing. I want to teach them. I want to build. He just had me from that because that's what I was looking for. I was looking for somebody to take my kids off of me and like make sure they were in good hands. And we talked and I loved them. So I didn't say anything. And then I knew they were going to press me. They're like, what are you doing about the CRO, this guy, Chris? I'm like, all right, I'm thinking about it. I was hiring him the moment I met him. So I finally went back and, all right, I'll hire him. I didn't want to go too fast, so I didn't give up too easy. So I hired him, and Chris has been amazing. He's an amazing human. He's an amazing person, amazing mentor for those kids. Hunter has, like, his level, if he would have stayed under me for the last 2 years, he would have been a great sales rep, down and dirty, go get it. He's learned process and scale, and like he's learned all the shit that they teach you like in school and big companies that I don't know, I can't do that shit. And he's learned it. He's 27 years old, I think. I can never keep my kids straight. 26. I think he just turned 27. And he's like, he has got the skill. Like he in his phone, he probably has 150 CEOs of logistics companies he could text and go, "What's up?" And they're like, "Hunter, what's up?" I mean, who has that at 27 years old? You know what I'm saying? Like he's done incredible. And Ryan and Nick are the same way, and Drew and Tyler and I mean Kevin Berger, like all of these guys have just done crazy good under Chris. So I'm super blessed that Chris took that over from me. And then kind of early middle of last year, they brought in Jack Frecker. They took Robert, made him executive chairman, and brought in Jack, who's a high level CEO, great guy. Like he's amazing. He understands how to take a business from $1 billion to $5 billion. So like he knows what to do, and seasoned, and everybody loves him. He's people already bought into him. So they have a really great team there. So I was sitting there like in February, March of last year, and I'm like, I'm worthless, man. They don't need me. Like, they don't ask me. They have meetings. They don't call me. Like, they have, they do events and I'm not invited. They don't ask me to go. Like, I'm nobody. I'm waking up like depressed. And I have other ventures I do. I have the stem cell center down in Antigua, which I'm very passionate about. I mean, we've treated many kids with autism with great success. So that's like a project for me that I love. And
wait, what is that? Hold on, hit me on
stem
that for a
cells.
second. You've treated kids with autism.
Yeah,
What does that
yeah.
mean to treat kids
So
with
kids
autism
that
and
have
have success?
autism in the earlier stages, like 6 to 12 years old before puberty, they get stem cell treatments and have miraculous results. Like we have kids, Sergio that works for Lean.
What's an example of a miraculous result?
So Sergio Alvarez at Lean has 2 twins, and his 8-year-old son has autism, and I know Sergio is another one that I've known 20 years. It's worked for me. His son went down and got stem cells. When they took him down there, they basically have to sedate him on the plane. Can't be in an environment with noise, like can't sit still, doesn't really speak. And they went down and got him stem cells and then went home the next day, got on the plane, watched his iPad, no problem. Went to school the next day. The teacher said, "Who's this kid?" Like they've had miraculous results, like insane. And they treated multiple people after that.
Is cure the word? It cures
I don't know if
autism?
it cures, but it basically
Drastically reduces
repairs.
the challenges?
Yeah.
How does
It's
that
crazy.
work? It's the
stem cells. So if you know the history of a stem cell, your body starts as one stem cell. Your stem cell creates your whole body. Stem cells deploy and build your whole entire body, everything about it. So stem cells basically go in and it's regenerative medicine. Matter of fact, I got this book that our doctor that's involved with, he just asked me, "Hey, my new book just came
Move
out."
it over. I can't see it.
Right there.
Lifespan Decoded: How to Hack Your Biology
Yeah.
for a Longer, Healthier Life by Pradeep Albert and Alan.
So Pradeep
Katz.
Albert is one of the most amazing humans on the planet ever. He's our partner and runs the Stem Cell Center. He's incredible. So like he wrote he also has a textbook on Amazon stem cells. And so if you go to our stem cell center, www.stemcell123.com, and it's
pretty simple website.
It's a pretty simple website. That was Pradeep came up with that. So Pradeep's great. So like if you anything on do that, like it's you don't need it yet because you're only 30, but like it's been life changing for me. Like I have no aches and pains, and it's just great. So anyway, back to what the heck was I? So I replaced Chris. Get back on track. So Chris comes in. Chris has done an amazing job. So I find myself just
you're feeling less valuable.
I'm not happy. I feel like I'm worthless. I feel like I'm not helping anybody. I'm not adding value anywhere. And they're paying me. I'm getting paid nice, and they're basically paying me to do nothing. And I'm like, I don't want the money to do nothing. I don't want to. I still own a piece of the company. I'm still a stockholder, but I want to add value. And it just appears like they don't want me to add value. They just want me to stay away and let the new team take over, which is normal. It happens in a business. That's what they do. Yeah, it's hard. What they do,
especially when you have people who are a challenge for someone like you is people will be loyal to you, and so like it's hard when someone new wants to come in and exert or have influence, and it almost feels like there's a stranglehold or like a friction because people are like, do we go to the new guy but like we love Dave and like he's always steered us the right way. So I understand why there would be kind of a challenge there, right?
Yeah. Well, and plus too, they still want to be connected to you. So I took it well. I think I handled it well. I think I did. I think I transitioned it good, and I kind of stepped out. And it wasn't easy, man. It was emotionally draining, and especially when I'm working with my kids, right? Like I'm in there every day working with these guys and motivating them, and I felt great about that. So I have I got another little investment in Latin America and a social media company, and they were doing AI. So I heard, I looked on LinkedIn, I saw one of the posts. I won't mention any of the names because they're competitors now, but I saw this voice AI. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting, but it didn't sound that great. It sounded a little robot-y. And so I called up my guys that do the social media because they were doing chatting with AI. They were doing content creation with AI. I mean, basically they could take you and make you do something and show you in a, on a beach surfing and just with your image. So I called them up. I said, hey, what's this new voice AI
Do they give
stuff?
me a
They go,
six pack?
they could give you that.
I'm
That's
just
easy.
kidding.
You could do that. You could do that with yourself. What do you want? Bud Light, Michelob? What do you want? No,
No, a six pack on my
obviously, obviously, I know. I'm saying,
Obviously.
well, I can give you something that's
Never had
possible.
those.
So I called them up. I said, "What's this voice agent stuff going on?" They go, "Oh, that's the LLM." I go, "Are we doing any of that?" They go, "Yeah, we actually are. We just started it." I go, "Can you build me a one of these, whatever you call it?" They were calling it voice agents back then. "Can you build me one of these voice agents that can basically book a truck?" And so I sent them a few recordings of booking trucks, and they go, "Yeah, it's not a big deal. We could do that." So they sent it to me. And I'm like, shit, this is pretty good, man. What can it do? So I started looking, then I started really digging into it. Then I discovered there was like a couple other people doing it, and they were like getting ready to go big in the market, and they raise money and do all this. So I said, shit, I need to move fast because this is going somewhere. And I wasn't even sure what I was going to do. I just knew that something was going to happen here, and I wanted to be involved in it, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So I basically resigned from Lean. I flew up and told my private equity partners, listen, I want to I want to go do this AI thing. Lean is doing great. You don't need me, and let me figure out what I'm going to do with this AI and come circle back to you. And I think it could be good for Lean, good for everybody, and I think I could do something with it. And so I went out, I put together a whole plan. I got a sample demo done. We basically made a dashboard and basically so I could go out and hustle up some investment capital. And then I called our good friend Kevin Nolan, and I said, hey, I'd love for you to be a partner in this business. Like, I think it's great. And I've done a couple other things with Kevin. We've had some success and, Soap Creek, Capital.
Yep.
And he said, I gave him a quick demo. He goes, let's do it. So I said, all right, I think we need 500K to basically bootstrap it, get it off the ground, to get a good investment deck, to get a really good dashboard and a demo, and go out and raise some real money to go put this in the market. I'm like, we can put in the money, but like, I don't want to put in my money. And, anybody knows me. I'm in the middle of a divorce, 4 years now, pretty contentious. So anything I do, they're up my ass. So I'm like, I don't really want to use my money because I should be trying to claim it. So I need investment capital. So I gave him the opportunity, put in 500K, and then he went out and called a bunch of people he loves and cares about and got them in on the 500. So we basically went and I got the demo, got the dashboard. I put together a great team by luck. Like, I had guys for AI and I mean, I just reached out, and just so happens they're perfect. And we started building it, and we went and raised money, and Soap Creek put together an insane cap table. We got 25 strategic people on the cap table, and
All
we have a
freight
working
people?
all freight people. Like, I don't know who I can say and who I can't
Yeah,
say.
don't say any names. It's
Yeah,
fine. But
yeah,
I just am
yeah.
curious
But
about that. Yeah.
everybody who's anybody that is excited about AI, and we're already got pilots off the ground. Pilots are up and running, and we should have back from the pilots in the next 2 weeks, hopefully before BGSA and definitely before Manifest. We should have 10 working pilots with good feedback and have it ready to go to market right before Manifest. And I have a saying, and just like in Lean, I always had a vision, and even in freight, I always had a vision, because I used to say, if I got a shipment today and a shipment tomorrow, a shipment the next day, and I always had. So Lean, it was 10,000 employees was what I went. I woke up, went to sleep. I always said 10,000 employees. I put it in everybody's head. So I want to get to 1 billion talking minutes, because that's how you bill AI, is by talking minutes. I want to get to 1 billion talking minutes within the next 3 years. And if I could do that, the average billing talking minutes about 18 cents. You can do the math. I think I built another $1 billion company, and I'm excited about it. And it's not just AI, because anybody can build you. You could go learn and build you a voice agent to take your calls and sound like you and do that. But it's actual experience of a dashboard that makes it effective for an employee, that makes us different. And our dashboard will allow an employee to just multitask and be 2 or 3 or 4 times more productive than normal. And that's, I think, where we'll win the day. It doesn't just take a call and get a lot of the little nonsense out of the way and then transfer it to somebody that could actually do something. It actually allows the person that can actually do something watch this stuff go on and then interact in real time and take it over. So I think that's what will make us different and make us better. And, what we're doing is the ability to understand what employees need, because I've done every job in logistics, and having 10,000 employees doing every job in Colombia, like I know what needs to be done in every aspect, from payables, receivables, POD retrieval, tracking, tracing, carrier. Every job I know how to do it and what needs to be done. And so we've created a dashboard that the average employee at a company like Lean or anywhere can use that makes them more productive in their daily work. An example is if you're having an accounts receivable rep calling on accounts receivable, they're picking the phone, and maybe 20% are calls, the rest is email and nonsense, but you're calling to see where your money is. They can make one phone call at a time, pick it up, dial, ask for the person. Well, this dashboard allows the AI, they're making 10 calls at a time, getting the people on the phone, talking to them about them, sending them their AR, sending them invoices that they're missing. And if somebody has an issue, the person can just take the call over. They can pick it up, click on the box and pick the call up and say, hey, I noticed you're struggling with my AI. Let me see if I can help you with this. Instead of saying transfer me to an agent, representative, and trying to get the AI to get you to a person, the person can actually take it over. And it highlights escalation words. And so you can see the person working can see these 5 or 8, 10 conversations going on at once. It can't be too many, because then if they got to take over 5, then it defeats the purpose. But there'll be a number that they'll get to that says, this is how many calls I can manage. And now they can watch it, and then escalation words get highlighted in yellow and red, and the success of the calls are, smiley faces, regular faces, frown face, simple stuff that makes it interactive. And so now if an accounts receivable person can have 5 or 6 phone calls going on at one time, and then picking one up and getting it real effective, they're using their time for the real stuff instead of wasting time. And things like that are what's going to make AI more effective. AI is not going to replace people and do the job from start to finish with no audit, no trail, no human making sure it was done right. And anytime soon that I can see in logistics, it's going to take time, a few years, but now it can make people more effective and better. If you could take a call center employee at Lean that you're saving money already and now make them twice as productive, it's just more value and more ROI.
100%.
So,
I mean, I'm curious, can you kind of help me understand? So like the name is CloneOps. So in essence, the concept is to clone the operations.
Clone your best people.
Yep. And like, how far does this go? Like, what functions in the business? Like you mentioned AR, what other functions in the business does this make sense to work with?
So, I mean, we're tackling all kinds of use cases. So a lot of the use cases are, the POD retrievals, the document retrieval, accounts payable, carrier sales. Like inbound carrier sales is the biggest one everybody's tackling, because that's where the money is for people. Like people are looking at it like, okay, where can I make the biggest impact in the logistics and reduce their cost per load? It's in carrier sales, right? So and you were a big volume broker, that your inbound calls, like somewhere between 20 and 40% of your calls go unanswered, left on hold. You pick it up and it's a tire kicker. You don't even want to talk to the person, but you got to give them the time of day and 30 seconds before you can get them off the phone. So what ours is doing is, it's taking that inbound call, it's identifying who it is. It's saying, okay, this is a high value asset or low value asset, a no value asset that's on the phone. What attention does it need? And I got Kevin Nolan calling me. Should I take the call during the podcast?
No. It'll probably screw up your recording
okay.
or whatever.
So these inbound calls don't get vetted. They sit on hold. You don't know who's in hold and what queue. So what this will do is it'll take the inbound call and it'll prioritize it and categorize it so people can see these are the people in the queue talking to AI. Do I want to grab one of these? If you have your big carrier on your hottest load for your customer and he's talking to your AI, you want to pick that call right up. So like it's as soon as that call rings, it gets answered by AI and it vets who it is, immediately what it is. It matches to your system. Say, is it a 1 truck guy? Is it a 100 truck guy? Like it kind of like sizes it up in a priority, and now allows your people to already have that knowledge when they're, before they get the phone call to find out who it is. And so like those inbound calls are a big tackle, because you don't want to lose a carrier. If a carrier calls in for a load, he's on hold and he hangs up, you still want to know where his truck is and what's available and who he is and get him logged in some sort of system so you have it in the future. So that's a big one that everybody's tackling. That's a pretty easy one to tackle. Then you got the outbound carrier sales.
Yeah.
That's actually
hold on. Before you go into outbound, let me just say one thing on the inbound. that is a massive unlock. Like people who have not run a brokerage or been active like high enough up in a brokerage do not understand that being able to answer every call has to this date been an impossible thing to solve. And the abandonment rate, which is the percent of calls that go unanswered, is way too high. And any broker that wants to create a quality experience for their carriers cannot say they're doing so well, honestly, if they have a high abandonment rate. And it's just it's a really hard thing to staff because of the way that the volume of calls work. We're on certain times, certain prices, certain days. You're going to see way more calls than others, and you just the number of people you have to answer the calls to this date is a finite number that is not going up and down every day, but the number of calls coming in is. And so just to be able to have a support system through AI that can take those calls is a massive unlock.
Yeah. No, it is. And I wasn't really aware. And I always knew there were calls on hold, but I never narrowed it down to percentage. And during the raise, we're talking about use cases. And the most important part we got to hit with these, smart logistics people, they said like these inbound phone calls are insane. Like people sit on hold forever, and it's like we tackle this, and I said that's easy. Like that's one of the easiest things to do. And then we came up with let's tackle it. Let's find out who it is and prioritize the call too, because one guy with the owner operator with a truck that doesn't need anything is way less important than the 100 truck guy that's on 5 hot loads for you, but you still want to talk to the one guy. But if you have to take your business and you have to say what's more important right at this moment, if you have a receptionist taking these calls and answering every call, right, she's going to prioritize. She's going to tell, hey, Andrew, you want to take this call. The other guy get right after. Like you have to prioritize. It's just the nature of the nature of the business. I don't want to make it seem like the one truck guy's not important because he is.
Exactly.
But your customer.
Clarifying.
Your customer is the most important, right? Because your customer is a customer of that one truck guy and the 100 truck guy and that. So everybody wants you to take care of the customer first. So you have to prioritize and make sure you take care of the customer first on those calls. And that's what it'll do. And so you want to but you don't want to lose the one truck guy either. You want to take care of him. So if you can have an AI agent speak to the one truck guy and he's happy speaking to him and giving him the information, and he actually gets somewhere by giving that information because it's being logged now and somebody gets back to him, it's a win-win for everybody. Instead of just being left on hold and picked up, oh, you're him, hold. You know what I'm saying? He's nobody, hold. But like everybody's somebody, and that one truck guy can end up being a 100 truck guy down the road, and he's going to remember where he was treated right.
That's true. And the other thing that you're now jogging my memory about that I've seen before in recordings is, for one, like I wanted our carrier reps to be the best of the best, and I wanted them to do things the right way every time. But with people, you're not perfect, and your team's not perfect, and sometimes people are going to do, people are going to do their
people are emotional. They're emotional. Like
people are emotional, but there's also people are going to do whatever they are most incentivized to do. And in a situation where a carrier rep picks up a call and has to put it on hold for a second to answer another call, if the first call is someone who's looking for information or doesn't seem likely to be
them on hold,
a load that's going to get booked, but the second call is someone calling in on a big money winning load for you, you're going to sit there and deal with that guy all day and let the other guy just sit on hold and marinate. And it's not creating a good experience. And the beauty, at least what I believe in, if you can get the AI recording to do exactly what you want, because there is no emotion involved, because there is no incentive to make more money or anything like that, then you can get rid of you can get rid of some of the subjectivity. You can get rid of some of the kind of poor decision making that some of the reps happen to make.
Yeah. Well, the reps are busy too. We used to have 3 phones on every desk. You know what I'm saying? Like you had 2 phones on hold, 1 phone here, 1 phone here, your cell phone in the middle. Like you were hustling, and this does that because it's easy too. It's basically voice attendant on steroids. That's as close to a human as you can get. It's not a human, but it's as close as you can get. So somebody can actually speak to them. It's not frustrating. You can have a conversation. It's conversational. It's a conversational voice attendant instead of just the typical, here's what I'm going to say, not interrupt me. So, and we can make the voice soothing. We can make it anything we want to make. We can make it your voice. Like you can make it, you can create a style of voice.
Soothing.
No, well, yours not, but I said soothing, then I said your voice.
I wasn't saying clarifying 2 separate things.
but at the end of the day, like make the experience. And I'm also promoting too with all of the people we're talking to. I'm like, let people know it's AI to test it, try it. Don't shove it on them like they have to use it. Let them want to use it. So even in outbound sales, right? We're creating outbound sales programs that it's not a typical pitch. It's, hey, I'm AI. You believe me? I'm AI for MoLo Transport. I'm in sales. They got rid of all the salespeople, and it's just me. Do you believe me? Ask me a question. You know what I'm saying? Like something that's other than, hey, I'm calling with MoLo, and just the standard sales pitches are dead. Nobody's listening to that. If I hear somebody come in, hey, is this David Bell? No, click. No, it's not me. Click.
Definitely not me.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So we're creating AI that makes it creative because people are curious about AI now. If you could take that curiosity and turn it into a door opener, like it's great. And we're building some really cool shit because AI is going to evolve, and eventually I'll have an avatar of me on my website that you can just click on and have a full blown conversation just like this. And it'll download all of me. It'll know my voice. It'll know me, and you could literally have this conversation with me as my AI, and it'll look just like this, just like me, just like we're doing this today, and it'll be my AI. So if I could do that on my website and do a presentation and do a demo right with anybody that wants an AI sales pitch, I could do it like this and hit it and give them the sales pitch and ask questions. I just 100x'd my ability to reach out to people because to schedule a discovery call, to get them on the phone and go through the PowerPoint and do all that, it's a lot of time and work. If I can do that immediately with AI, immediately they can have their discovery call right now. Let's schedule a discovery call. No, let's do it right now. You got 3 minutes, just click there, boom. And you do it instead of scheduling and doing all that. Like if I can transform sales to be able to do that and have people accept that form and be curious about it and test it. Now sales just got put on massive steroids, which companies will massively scale better now, which means more people, which means more AI. So I think AI is going to promote and help companies grow and help them add people and add opportunities for people in the beginning stages of it to the middle stages of it before it actually does something drastic for people. In this business, not in every business, right? I mean, some businesses are just going to get rid of the people and have AI, and it's going to be what it's going to be. But in logistics, I think it's going to evolve, and if we can use it and tap into that curiosity and the creativity of AI to help open doors and be the ones to do it with logistics companies, then I think it's a benefit. I think it's something cool.
So you mentioned being able to bill today, the average is, I guess, 18 cents per minute.
Mhm.
And my question is, as you described, it doesn't take a lot to get this kind of product up and running. I mean, it takes intelligent people who understand how to build AI tools. It takes a little bit of capital, not a ton
I think
though.
it's
It's
still
not like it
expensive.
takes it's not like it takes
It's
10, but you didn't
No, no,
raise
no.
10
Yeah,
million
no, no,
bucks
no,
to
no,
get this
no.
going.
It's
So
under a million. It's under $1 million to have a platform fully up and running, robust platform, and do it. You could get it done for under $1 million. You could get it built.
my question is, there's a hype cycle right now around AI
Yeah,
for
for
sure.
sure.
And
Hmm.
and there will be benefits and value add. We've already
Hmm.
talked about it. Just one exact example of the unlock with being able to get rid of the abandonment calls. But
Hmm.
my question or concern would be, how do you make sure 18 cents doesn't become 17, become 15, become 12,
No, it
become
will.
10,
No,
become
it
8,
will.
become
No, oh, it will.
5?
It will. It's going to be like this. It's going to be like the cell phones. When cell phones were $3,000 a month, the phone bill, and now they're 300 a month. It's going to be the same exact thing. That's why I'm saying, like, the AI voice itself is not exciting, and that's not where the value is going to be created. It's in the dashboard, the integrations, the partnerships, creating the perfect prompt scripts, the perfect database of 10 million calls with best practices, best prompts, data, all the data. Eventually, it's going to become. So we have we have basically what most people are using API. We're using AI API. Eventually our agents will talk
AI
to.
API, is that something
Yeah,
different?
yeah, that's what we're working on to come out in the future to hopefully like be similar to the next API. Because if I have a voice agent that's at a broker calling a carrier, right? And now these carriers, now everybody has these voice agents calling these carriers. These carriers are going to be tired of talking to voice agents. They're going to pick up another voice agent, pick up, what I'm saying? So what I'm creating both ways is now when I get a carrier, now when I get a broker on board, we're looking at all the top carriers they're using, and we're connecting with those carriers. Say, hey, we're going to create an agent for you, so our agents talk to each other and communicate, and both parties can watch this communication go on. And eventually, that's like API. What I'm saying? It's basically, what load do you have? What load do you want? Here it is. But there's so many archaic, non technology companies that are in this space. There's very, it's an unsophisticated group of space logistics, and everybody doesn't have the APIs and TMSs and everybody. There's a lot of small to medium sized companies that don't invest in the technology, which is what holds up the industry from being, pure technology. So what we're doing is we're going to create an AI for the carriers, and we're going to simultaneously go down both paths to get them both talking to each other with AI. And if we can accomplish that, 2 years down the road, we'll just have AI talking to AI, and there'll only be exception handling what the people are doing.
And then if I'm the carrier, I'm a dispatcher sitting in Elk Grove Village, our favorite, Chicago-based area for booking loads.
Yep.
I'm looking for $4 a mile, and I'm sitting there and I'm not answering a single phone call. I'm talking to my girlfriend. Yep. And I'm looking at my screen.
Correct.
And I'm on the CloneOps dashboard.
Yep.
And I see 40 different calls going on at the same time, where all I'm looking
Probably won't be
for
able to
is
have 40, but figure 10.
Call
You can
10.
manage it. 10.
I'm watching 10 calls go on at the same time. And all I'm looking at is the one column that has a dollar sign.
Yep.
And as soon as that call gets to the point where your AI talks to, I guess, your other AI about the rate, and it plugs that rate in, and the first one says $2, it turns red. The second one says $2.25, it turns red. The third one says $4.10 a mile. Boom, it turns green. Now I tell my girlfriend, hold on, let me look at this.
Yep.
I look at it, I say, okay, I like that, I like that, I like that. And I either can just book it, or I can jump into the call and say, hey, this is Vlad. I want your load, $4, 10 cents a mile. I'll take it.
Or the broker will say, okay, let's do it. But let me talk to Vlad. You want to make sure, listen, I'm going to give you $4 a mile, but your ass better have the driver there on time. He better have a clean trailer. He better be good. He better make it overnight here. And that's why I'm paying your ass so much money. And it better not go back to your terminal and put freight on it.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like at $4 a mile, you're going to have a lot of demands that your AI may not be able to get across. So your AI is going to want to talk to Vlad, and maybe the broker carrier rep on the broker side will want to talk to Vlad. So, and confirm it. So you don't say, but you're never putting that in AI's hands only, and then let it happen.
In a lot of ways, what your dashboard and the AI will do is just cut a lot of the noise that is ineffective for me to deal with as a rep.
Wasted noise and time, even to the fact where it's like, hey, Andrew, how's the family? What'd you do this weekend? You have 4 lines holding, but you don't want to be rude. And you're like, oh, everything's great. Last week, how'd that go? And, you have the small talkers. Like, you want to do that because you don't want to lose that human touch, but you don't want to do it all day long while you got people holding. And so, if you can just socialize when you're ready and you have time and you want to do that, you put in your socializing time to keep the relationships and still seem human, but you still got this work you want to get done in a rapid fashion to move on, because the world's moving faster and faster. It's not going to slow down. So, that's basically what we're trying to accomplish with the dashboard. And I think we can do it. I think it's going to take time and adoption, and it could do it for the guys that don't have the technology, because all he has to do is upload a CSV of his trucks and where they are. And the agent can go, he don't have to be in his TM. He don't have to be in any system for a carrier. He could just have a CSV of his available trucks and the target rates that he wants. And his dispatcher can negotiate with the broker calling, just like you just described. And it's a simple upload your available trucks and where you want to go, and where you're looking to go, and what the rates you want, and let it negotiate every broker that calls in for your trucks. So there's so many things we could do that we're building and going to do. And that's my vision of it. And eventually there's going to be just this big AI community that's moving freight, and the human community that's watching it happen and handling exceptions is what I see. And I think that I actually think some crazy shit's going to happen. I think sometime in the next future, 3 to 5 to 10 years, I think we're going to go to a 3-day work week or a 4-hour work day, because I think things are going to get done so much faster and so much more productive and so much quicker. Because again, that AR making one phone call a day, not one phone call at a time, now can make 10. That guy booking trucks, one truck at a time, can now book 10. So I think it's going to get, I don't think we're going to get rid of massive people. I think we're going to go to shorter work weeks and shorter work days, because people, after COVID, people don't want to go into office. They want flexibility. They want a job that they can have more personal time. It's evolving. Like my old dinosaur generation of the 40-hour, 80-hour work weeks in the office, grinding, doing nothing. I don't think that's in the next generation. My kids don't look at it that way. You don't look at it that way. You want to have freedom, flexibility, time, and I think we're going to evolve as AI does more work and people do less. I don't think people are going to be gone. I think they're just going to, companies are going to short. You're going to go to work for a company that says, we only work 8 to 12 and we get all the work done. You want to work for us, or you want to go work over there where you got to work 8 to 5 and we're going to pay you the same. You know what I'm saying? So like that, I think that's going to evolve. Just like right now, companies that can work remote are getting the people versus companies that want them to come in the office. It's going to go to that, to working less, to getting, you know what I'm saying? I think that's what it's going to evolve to in my crazy thinking.
So I've heard crazier. I've talked to this guy. I was talking to this guy I was at a holiday party, and he has a business like yours. He's a few years ahead of you. He's been doing this he's been in AI for a while, and his business is the same thing: voice AI sales agents, but it's not in our industry. Like I think he does a lot of the stuff for the
Yeah.
NFL, like when
You
they're
should connect
calling
him
and
to me
selling direct
because we
TV
can
deals. I
we
will.
can partner in this industry. Yeah. I think
I'd be happy to
sales is
connect you.
incredible.
But let me tell
Yeah.
you what he's selling me on. So for one, he believes what you just said will be basically times 100, in that
Yeah.
we will actually get to a point where most people are not actually doing any real work.
Yeah.
The AI will become so proficient
Mhm.
and so inexpensive that it will do 99% of the work. And he
Yeah.
said, I think what his number was, for one, this was a kind of fascinating number, but I think it's 11% of the workforce today is in content creation of some fashion. And content creation can be a broad term here in terms of, I guess this would be considered content creation. And he thinks that in, I think, 15 years, that number will be 60%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people will make way less money, but people will need way less money. Everything will be
Resources
way
are going to
less.
be in abundance. Resources are going to be in abundance.
It's hard for me to. I
Well, if
can't
you
get there. I
look,
can't wrap my brain
but
around what that
when I
looks
was
like.
when we were looking for manufacturers for our stem cells and sourcing for stem cells, we went and met with a bunch of different companies and scientists. And what was funny is that's like the question: what happens when people live to be 200 years old? Like, how does that happen? Like, if this really is longevity, what happens? And their reasoning was this: there's going to be way more resource. You have plant-based protein now that can be made in abundance. You don't have to put cows in a field anymore to get meat protein. They got plant-based protein. Resources are going to become abundance. Power is going to be coming from so many sources that it's going to be cheap. Everything is going to be so much less expensive that you have to work less, people will do less, but the resource will be in abundance. So there'll be countries like the U.S. will just have stipends. Your food will basically be free if you want it, and it'll be good. Your electricity will basically be free if you want it, and it'll be good. They say it's going to evolve to like all resources required for basic necessities just to get by are basically going to be free. And then the people that want to go do something, there's going to be more creative stuff that's going to happen because we're humans. We're always going to evolve and create and make and go forward. Those people that are creative and want to do that will have the opportunities to go do that and build new things and new ideas. And I mean, if you imagine before electricity was made, nobody thought we would be in a house with bathrooms and lights. And I mean, you look then, people would have thought you were crazy. But it seems like everything futuristic that comes out of movies like 30 years before all of a sudden starts evolving, right? So I think that's what it is. But I think that resources and AI is similar. Like it's just going to be very, very inexpensive and in abundance. And if that's the case, people aren't going to have to go work crazy jobs unless it actually is something that requires your physical hands that a robot can't do. But I mean, almost everything will be able to be done. And then life, people are going to have their basic needs in abundance. I mean, that's what it's hard to imagine, but that was how they painted it. And I'm like, yeah, maybe 100 years from now. but it was crazy too. There were three different scientists that told me, because the first one said he thinks there's somebody living today that'll live to be 500 years old. So I took that, and the next scientist we met, I'm like, what do you think the oldest person living today could be over 500? What do you think the oldest person living today could be over 500? I'm like, what? All of them thought that there was somebody actually living today that would live to be over 500 years old by the time of the way health and longevities and the way you're mapping DNA and pulling out markers for diseases. Like they think that can happen, which is crazy to think. Like you think about that, it's nuts. I thought they're nuts. I still think they're a little nuts, but they have PhDs and they're doctors. What do I know?
I mean, I'm a freight guy. Maybe we're getting too far out of our wheelhouse here, but
anyway,
it's hard for me to imagine any of this.
Back to AI.
I got one more question.
AI is cool, man. Yeah, AI is cool, and I'm happy to be in. So it goes back to like I really got into it because I just needed to get back in the game and do something and feel needed and productive again. And I do, man. I'm excited. I wake up every day. I'm excited and doing some cool stuff. So
my last question for you, maybe we'll have more, but my last one, we're at an hour and a half, which is usually when I start to try to cut it off. People get bored.
I got a hard stop.
They won't get bored with this. So,
Yes,
but they don't get bored. It's a long time to sit and
it
listen to
is. It
my
is. Yeah.
nasally voice. In any
And my
case,
sniffling.
yeah, you got a cold or something?
I got a cold. Yeah, I had a
Yeah.
cold. I can't see my
Um,
grandbaby because I have a cold.
really? That's
So
unfortunate.
yeah, we've been sick for the last 2 weeks in the house. So
Yeah, it's going around.
yeah.
In any case, what like why should someone like, there's going to be a lot of these companies popping up. There already are a number. There's a few that have raised
Hmm.
a bunch of money,
Yep.
and like why should people choose CloneOps? Why should
Yeah.
people choose to partner with you versus some of these other guys that are starting up?
Yeah. So I think that I think one of the most compelling things is I know freight over these guys. There's a bunch of guys raising money and throwing money at it. They're tech guys and they don't really know freight. I know freight as good as anybody I'm selling to. There's nobody that you could put on the phone with me that I can't go toe to toe with on freight anyway, any zip code to zip code, miles, whatever it is. I know freight inside and out. I think is one, and my whole cap table, my whole team, we're all freight experts, and I have really good tech guys. So we have a combination of knowledge and tech. I think the second thing is this credibility. I mean, when you look at when I was in freight, I hauled for every broker, and whether it was a truckload backhaul or it was and backhaul, obviously truckload backhaul, or it was an LTL, they trusted me, right? I would get a call from 5 brokers for the same shipper's load, and I would quote them all the same price, and I would never even think of calling that shipper and getting the freight direct. I mean, I dealt with for 20 years. I hauled freight for brokers and never had one scenario, not even one scenario where anybody called me and said, "You called my shipper," not one. And I made sure of that because, and so when I went into lean, I did the same thing. Like I have competitors right next to each other in every single building. We never let anybody take anybody's employees. We made sure we were secure and data secure. Like there's not any incidences at lean with over 700 customers and 10,000 employees where people are saying they're shady, they used our information, they didn't do the right thing. So I've always done the right thing. My credibility and integrity is at the highest level, and it's going to stay there. So I think going into this, like data protection, data security, what are you going to do with my information? Who are you going to put it with? Like, where are you going with this? I think the trustworthiness and credibility is what sets us apart from everybody too. There's a bunch of tech guys that raise a bunch of money. I don't know what they're going to do with the money. Everybody says marketing or whatever. I don't need to do marketing. I know everybody. So, I mean, I don't need to go out and hire 500 sales reps and spend a ton of money on marketing because I already have a link to everybody through my network. And so I don't need that much money to grow the company. Like it doesn't take that much. So I don't know what they're going to do with all the money, but at the end of the day, what's going to win the day is I know what needs to be done to make it effective and work and easy and deployable to where it gets right in, it starts producing ROI and working versus not, because a lot of tech gets deployed and doesn't get used properly and work. And I think the credibility and people trust me. I mean, and I think I've earned that trust for, through the history. And so I think trust is a big thing. And when I tell somebody I'm going to do something and deliver it, I'm going to not sleep till I deliver it. If I don't, you're not going to pay for it. I'm not going to, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm going to make sure that I deliver what I say I'm going to do. And I think that's what people are looking for, because it's still the freight industry is still, it's still a tight industry, a tight network of people that talk to each other and know each other, and word travels fast. And so that's what I think. But listen, there's great companies out there. These guys that are out there are young and smart and got a ton of energy, and I don't know, they can still outwork me, but they're I got to give credit where credit's due. They've done a great job, and the competitors are out there in the market, and they're going to get market share. But there's so much. There's so much out there. It's like lean, right? Lean did it forever, and then all of a sudden we had no competition for 5 years. Like none. Nobody was. We were the only ones doing it, and then all of a sudden people are like, "Oh shit, this works!" And next thing you know, like there's 10 people competing with lean now, and they're still getting the business because they're the experts, they're the trustworthiness, they have the history of everybody that's doing it and success. So I think that's what's going to be the differentiator, and I hope, and I'm just I'll just be grateful for any business I get if I can make it a profitable business and return some growth on investment to my investors. I'm happy, because I can't sleep at night knowing I have people's money, and so I got to make sure we make this a success. I guess that's, if that answers your question.
It does. I'm sitting here and I got to be honest. I think I regret not getting on the cap table. I don't think I
You
regret.
had
I
a
do regret.
chance. You had a chance.
I
I
had
think
these
we talked to
guys.
you about running. Didn't we talk to you about running the company?
Yeah, you wanted me to be CEO. Well, the thing was, I had these other guys want me to
Yeah.
do it with them, and I'd been talking to them, and I don't think it's the space for me.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it is where I should be investing my time as like a CEO or an executive in the business. But I'm on your team, and
Yeah.
I'm
No, you've always
regretting
been,
not
man. I
not
appreciate that.
kind of giving you
Yeah.
some cash when I had the chance. So if that door opens back up, let me know, because I want to get in on it. So,
No, I mean, I appreciate it.
and
I love to have you in, man. And
even
thanks for having me on this, man. It's, I appreciate it. You're doing great with it. I'm so happy for you, man, because I know you're enjoying it and, it's getting you, it's your foundation for where you're going, man. And I like to see that.
I appreciate it, brother. Well, listen, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the episode. It was great. I mean, everything from all around. You're a great storyteller. So this was fun. I had to remind you you're on a podcast, so it's not just you and your buddy catching up. But a lot of people struggle with that. So
Yeah.
it's harder when you know someone so well. It's so easy to get. It's like you're sitting at the bar having a drink, just
Yeah.
talking war stories.
But I think that's more interesting. I did a podcast like 2 or 3 weeks ago. My marketing team said, "How'd it go?" I go, It felt so self promoting, man. I hated it. Like I don't like to be self promoting. Like it's just not me. It just felt like it was all self promoting. And so I told myself when I get on your podcast, I don't want to be self promoting. I just want to shoot the shit and tell people some stories and a history and make it interesting. Because the worst thing is just keep hearing over and over about somebody talking about themselves. So I was hoping
Yeah,
that it would be better and turn out this way. So hopefully people enjoy it, man.
I think they will.
Yeah, cool, man. Thank you
All right,
so much,
everyone.
and we'll catch up for sure. Don't
Sounds
forget to
good.
connect me to your buddy. He said you would in the AI.
Yep, I will. I
All
got you.
right, cool, Andrew.
All right,
See you, brother. Thank
everyone.
you, man.
Have a good one.